A complex dilemma for many betrayed spouses is to understand why the unfaithful spouse didn't understand what they were in danger of losing either before they had the affair or during the affair. It is a very difficult thing to understand as a betrayed spouse. Why wouldn't the unfaithful spouse be able to understand what they were in jeopardy of losing? Their marriage, the relationship with their kids, their job, finances. There's a long list of things that we as unfaithful are jeopardizing by acting out. And I want to do my best to answer that question today because it's incredibly hard for a betrayed spouse to understand the mind of the unfaithful. And in many ways, some of the most viewed video blogs I've ever done is when I try and lasso the mind of the unfaithful and kind of bring it to the betrayed and say, here's kind of why we do some of the things that we do or say some of the things that we say. And so this might be a good video blog for you to ask your unfaithful spouse, man or woman, to come and sit with you and just watch this video blog, and after the video blog, for you to say to them, listen, I want to know your thoughts on this. There are no deal breakers. I am just going to ask you to be honest with me, and if you're honest with me, I promise and I commit to not blast you, shout at you, yell at you, blow your head off verbally. I just need to know, is this accurate? Is this true? Is this what you were feeling? And remember, two important virtues are humility and honesty. So I would invite you not to do this exercise if you're not at a point where you feel like you can be honest, and if you are certainly not willing to humble yourself, then don't do this exercise. But if you are willing to do it, this might be good after this video to sit with your unfaithful spouse and say, okay, after what you've just heard, tell me your thoughts on it. Is that accurate? Is that right? What are you feeling? Because the whole goal of this is to connect, not play find the bad guy and not say, who's more at fault. Help us or help me connect with you so that we can get on the same page and move the recovery football at least a little bit down the road in the right direction. Part of the reason we, the unfaithful, don't realize what we're in danger of losing is because when we have our affairs, when we act out, when we're in the middle of our affair, we really don't think we're going to get caught. We kind of think that we're smart enough and strategic enough to really not let it come out. We don't plan for, text messages or all the different ways that our affairs become uncovered. We kind of think that we'll get away with it, or we think that we can turn it off. And when we're done, we can just say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. It's over, it's done. We have this idea that we can turn off our behavior with kind of this light switch mentality. We don't really think that it's ever going to come out. And incidentally, there's a huge difference between why men cheat and why women cheat. Now, at some level, you can say that men can cheat but still love their spouse and their affair partner. Yes, it's possible. And men will typically cheat and not believe that the marriage is over. Now, typically, women, they're a little different story there. Typically, not exhaustively and not 100% of the time, but oftentimes a woman will cheat when they feel like the marriage is over. Typically, women will not cheat when they love both their affair partner and their spouse. Now, that does happen, and it is certainly a truth that happens, but generally speaking, women are more apt to cheat when they think the marriage is over. You see, that's the thing about temptation. We are not in our right mind typically when we're cheating. We are fixated by the opportunity to be pawned after or affirmed or worshipped, if you will, right? We talked about feeling self-hatred and self-rejection. So here comes somebody that, treats us like a god, and they're constantly telling us how great we are and attractive we are and how awesome we are, and it becomes invigorating, and it becomes kind of like this drug that develops into limerence, which you can Google and read about. But limerence is an infatuatory type feeling that actually is a chemical that gets crystallized in our brain, and so we become infatuated with the affection that we're feeling from our affair partner. Now, to think that we in the middle of this are going to be of a crystal clear mindset and go, we're going to lose this and this, and we're going to do all these things to our spouse, and they're going to have sleepless night after sleepless nights, and they're going to have PTSD, and they're going to struggle with their own self-hatred, and this is going to really twist them and bend them and afflict them the rest of their life. We're not thinking that way. We don't think that way. We should have been thinking that way. To you, betrayed spouses, we absolutely should have been thinking that way, but most of the time we are not thinking that way. You see, if you come from a spiritual background, that's the bait and switch, right? That's the temptation of evil, is when temptation is being presented to us, or when we are partaking in temptation, the enemy, the devil, whatever you want to call it, doesn't show you the consequences to your choices. You don't see what your choices are going to bring upon your own life or the lives of those that you love so dearly. If you don't come from faith or spirituality, you are blinded by the temptation and the apparent fulfillment of all the things that you so desperately are craving, whether it be affirmation, love, lust, respect, connection, all the different things that are in this temptation. We are not seeing what it's going to cost. We are not seeing what it's going to do to our family members and to our own lives. We don't see that. To expect us to see that, unfortunately, is unrealistic, because we are in a selfish, self-absorbed mindset, fueled by justification and lust and, for some, perversion and bitterness and anger and minimization and all the other things that you've constantly heard from me over the months and years. We are not in our right mind. Now, that does not mean that we're not responsible for our choices. I'm not saying that we are literally, insane and shouldn't be held responsible for our choices. Not at all. I'm not trying to justify our behavior. I'm explaining it to you so that you can have some freedom to be able to say, okay, you had no idea. You were not seeing what these choices were going to cost you. That doesn't mean for you, betrayed, to go easy on your spouse or to kind of lay off, they weren't in their right mind. Give them a break. No. I'm trying to help you, betrayed, put the pieces together to understand that when I say things like, I try and remind myself every day what's at stake in my recovery. I don't want to lose Samantha. I don't want to lose my kids. I don't want to lose everything I've worked so desperately to regain. That's what keeps me from going to certain places or doing certain things or keeping me out of certain opportunities, because I have had to put safety mechanisms in my life. I have recovery work that I do. I have accountability partners because I don't want to relapse and I don't want to go back to the person I used to be. And we all in recovery as unfaithful spouses have to have a recovery protocol that we use for our own sobriety or for our own recovery to make sure that our infidelity or our addiction never happens again. So finally, I would invite you to sit with your unfaithful spouse, if they will, and say, look, is this kind of what you were thinking? Is this what was going on in your mind? Help me connect with you. I will not shame you. I will not condemn you. I may take notes and I may write things down and we may talk about things later. But I commit to just hear you out, to write some of these things down, and then we'll either take a break for today or at least an hour break today, and we'll talk about these things later. But I just want to connect with you with what is going on or what was going on in your mind when you were acting out or having your affair.